I want to reflect on yesterday's video. Yesterday's video was quite raw. I said I would start talking about roughly about 20 years old. I said the compass will be roughly about when I was 20 years old. It ended up being slightly before that. I said my late teenagers. The point was it was very raw. I choked up. I cried. There were points where I really recollected some very serious memories and some very painful memories. But it was actually very important for me to do that, and I felt very empowered by doing it. Now, the reason that is still so raw in my brain is because there's quite a few parts of it which I have yet to process. Now, I've mentioned this in yesterday's video, and it's scientifically proven that if you take an old memory which is triggering, and you sort of you alter that memory, you take it out of the memory bank, and before you put it back in, you put a bit of a different, more light-toned memory to it, you kind of feel better, and that memory doesn't go back as stark and as scary. So I'm going to do that today by reflecting and playing a bit of music. My favorite song as a child was No. I'll play it on my keyboard a little bit just to sort of lighten up the mood a little bit. Also worth noting that I'm aiming for absolute genuineness, and lots of my message here will still be rehearsed, and I will aim for perfection, which will eventually come. But I'm putting my message out there because I want people to realize that whatever predicament you're in, you could get out of it. I followed my dream. That's my shirt tonight. Follow that dream. I followed my dream, and I got myself out of a very difficult predicament. Like I said yesterday, I was responsible for putting myself in, and I was responsible for all the consequences taking myself out. There's a famous quote from Max Planck, who was a German physicist. He lived between 1858 and 1847. He said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's roughly what I've been doing the last few days. And so the physicist Max Planck, a German physicist, he put this across, which very much resonates with what I've been doing since Lag BaOmer. I've been reinterpreting my story, and I'm trying to empower myself by doing that. I am still talking about dark memories, but I'm putting it out there. I'm delivering it after I processed it with a lot more maturity and clarity, and in a much healthier way. Now, there's also the famous quote from Sadhguru, who's another one of my amazing teachers. Sadhguru, he says, don't label a thought or a situation as negative. Just label it as neutral, which is also Aaron Doherty talks about this, and I've also heard this from Tony Robbins. Also a very ecstatic, amazing speaker out there. He says, don't label a situation as negative because your brain will associate that with negativity. Now, I had a very interesting story today in shul, in synagogue. A woman approached me and she said that she remembers a couple of weeks ago I made a birthday party for my son. He's 15 years old. It was funny because I was like, my son is 15. I just didn't realize that. Yeah, my son is 15. She said, so how is your son? I said, oh, he's doing well, thank God. She said, what school does he go to? I said, oh, he goes to the school in Manchester. She said, why Manchester? Why not locally? I said, he doesn't live with me, and I haven't seen him in a couple of years. She said, oh, that's terrible. And I turned to her and I said, actually, it's the best it could be. The situation is the best it could be. And I've taken amazing lessons from my circumstances. And she heard that and she was quite blown away. I was like, yeah, it's important to take every situation and not label it, and that's what I've been doing. I thought I'd point out as well. that it's important to mention that I realize that we can take our life and either put smiley emotions to them or sad face emotions to them. That's literally up to us. We could interpret our memories, like I said, you take it out of the memory bank and interpret it however you want. And I've been taking a lot of my old memories today, and I've been trying to put like smiley emojis to them. I've been trying to put like a cartoon-like setting to them in order to lighten the mood. And I'm also picturing in my mind that some of the people who hurt me in the past, I'm trying to picture in my mind that they did it as a joke and they did it in a lightheaded manner, and that's given me a very soft and more light approach and feeling towards all that happened. Also worth mentioning that Tony Robbins said that nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning we give it, which is fascinating because a lot of victims of abuse are encouraged to just hold on to that abuse and hold on to that meaning, when in reality you're only bolstering the negativity and the bad associated with it. But yeah, that's an awesome quote from Tony Robbins. And then Tony Robbins also says that the only reasons why we don't have what we want in life are the reasons we create why we can't have them. The reasons why we create that we can't have what we want is how our brain interprets it and gives and delivers us exactly what we've labeled it, and exactly what the reasons that the brain keeps in our memory, those reasons why we tell it can't have it. And Tony Robbins also says, success is buried on the other side of rejection. Wow. That's an awesome quote, an affirmation. I'm thinking of putting it up somewhere in my house. Success is buried on the other side of rejection. And then he also says, where focus goes, energy flows. Create a vision and never let the environment and other people's beliefs or the limits of what has been done in the past shape your decisions. Sadhguru says, you can be deeply involved with everything but still not be identified with it anymore. And he also says, Sadhguru also says, every human being is capable of living absolutely blissful within themselves. They have denied themselves this because they never looked at themselves. And Arundhati says, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. Awesome quotes. It's amazing because I've read somewhere that I read this actually from Leora Alexandra. She says if you take an affirmation which very powerful people use, it gives you that meaning as well, and you associate and their strength and their power to yourself as well. So you effectively take the power and strength which an affirmation got from a lot of strong people, and you get it for yourself as well, which is awesome. It's empowering. There's lots of Einstein quotes out there as well, which are really good to remember. So that's my reflection on yesterday's video. It was painful, but it had to be put out there, and it was put out in a very mature, processed way, which is what I'm doing here. I'm gaining track, and I'm using my maturity and new insight and clarity, which I've gained in the last few weeks, which is awesome and beautiful. One last message I thought I'd put out, and that is that I really fell into my temptation, and I looked at the Israeli news on Friday. I shouldn't have looked at the Israeli news. I was really staying away from the news already 2 weeks. But so the universe threw some really unusual historic events at me, like Theresa May's resignation, which came when I was in a taxi, which is absolutely historic. Okay, she's not resigned yet, whatever. Then there was the Israeli election, which resulted in a very short-lived government. And that also happened in the frame and the timeline of after I started staying away from the news in order to stay away from negativity. I'm trying to stay away from many parts of my life which I can actually control. Because if you can't control part of your life, we as human beings tend to feel hopeless and helpless. And also listening to the news and watching the news is something which Western society does for us. They put us in a very low frequency. And when you listen to the news, you remain in a very low frequency. So I fell into my temptation, but I sort of looked at Aaron Doherty, and he talks about his story. He had a story recently when he was about to take a flight, and it was very expensive. And he started taking it very, very personally, and he fell into that egoistic mindset again. And he's a very spiritual person, but he fell back into his egoistic mindset. He was arguing over $200 on a ticket, but he ended up taking it as a lesson to realize that he'll put it out there. He'll talk about it in a YouTube video, and he'll say that, you know, we gotta squash our ego and let it go. I cannot squash it, but let it go. Use it for the right things. So yeah, I fell into my temptation, and I watched it. I looked at his rating news a little bit about the historic event, first time in 71 years. So yeah, it's the first time in 71 years that there was a government that was short-lived. So I fell into that temptation, and I looked at that. But the point is that, you know, I fell into that temptation. I'm talking about it, and I'm going to really try in the future not to do that again. To stay away from the news, not to fall into the matrix, not to fall into that, not to become a glove for what, you know, to fall to a very low frequency, in a nutshell. Okay, I'm going to now play that song which we sang as children. I'm not a perfectionist, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to play on my keyboard, which is Ano Hashem. Ano Hashem. Ano. Abdecha Kodesh Aberichu. Ano. Which is always just to uplift the mood a little bit after yesterday's painful video. That was that. I thought I'd mention again that my 100th subscriber will be receiving a free gift to be shipped out anywhere around the world. Awesome stuff, awesome messages. And if you haven't liked yet my video, please like it or dislike it if you don't like it. And if you got any messages, please put them down below. Awesome stuff. I love comments. I love the feedback I'm getting. I'm getting a lot of feedback from people the last few days. You can come on Facebook, which is Jess Madden, or on Instagram, Jess MADN, or even by email, jessica17741@gmail.com, or on LinkedIn, if that's where you are. I've been doing a lot of social mediaing on LinkedIn as well. So you can message me on LinkedIn as well. You can message me down below. So if you want to get those videos ASAP right away when they come out, you can press that subscribe button. Awesome stuff, awesome messages. Thanks for your feedback. Great. So I forgot to mention, yes, so I spoke on Friday to Ben. I didn't mention Ben. It was Ben, Liz, and Karen. And the fourth one I mentioned on Friday. I'm trying to remember names. It's not one of my strongest points, but we'll get there in the future, because memory does improve as you make life better. Your memory also improves with time. That's my message today. Thanks tons for your feedback, and thanks tons for your awesome support. See you later. See you in my next video.